Sharyn, if you had to describe the multi-generational workforce in one word, what would it be and why?
Power. The more diversity you bring within an organization, and that is age, that is gender, that is race and ethnicity, you're going to have better outcomes, more innovative outcomes, more collaboration. You're going to be a more agile organization, and ultimately, don't we all want that?
I'm Lauren Young. I am an editor at Reuters, where I oversee workplace coverage, and I am leading an effort to talk about the multi-generational workforce. I am Gen X, and I'm joined here today with Sharyn Jones, who is the head of talent management at MassMutual, and she is based in Connecticut. Sharyn, thank you for joining us today. Sharyn, can you tell me a little bit about MassMutual and the age diversity within the company? How multi-generational are you?
Sure. Thanks, Lauren. So MassMutual, as you mentioned, is an insurance company. We're based the headquarters is in Springfield, Massachusetts. We have about 7,500 employees at the current moment, and we are in age range people that are, let's say, early 20s to 70s in terms of our population. So you could really understand that we do have multiple generations in our workforce interacting every day. And we have people that are days old, so they've started with the company this week. We have people that are decades with the company. So it's not only that kind of different age groups within our population, but different experiences as well in terms of time and tenure within the organization.
There's a new normal in the office, which is you in your home office and me in my dining room. And so what challenges does that bring for the multi-generational workforce?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the question around challenges, because I think we are about situations. And those situations, one of the things that MassMutual prides itself on is meeting people where they are. So we don't have a one-size-fits-all mentality for anything that we do. What we do is when we're thinking about how do we solve a challenge, how do we think about multiple populations, we're always thinking about how will that impact each of those different kind of millennial, Gen Y, Gen X, what does that look like, baby boomers, how do you address that? And so one of the things that we do is when we're thinking about challenges, we solicit feedback from within the organization. We make sure that we're talking with those different age groups. And I think a great example of that is we have a reverse mentoring program in one of our business resource groups. It's called the Young Professionals Group. And they have a program called Truth to Power. And it consists of, let's call it a more seasoned leader within our organization paired with a small group of millennials. And they get together and you would think, okay, what might they be talking about? For sure, technology, that would be a common area to discuss. But secondarily, it's really to talk about what's going on in the business. And based on what's going on in the business, soliciting feedback from our young professionals in the workforce and talking about what are the trends? What do we need to think about with certain markets? How does that play out and how can that impact the way in which we do business? And our exciting story is our CEO has been involved. We've been doing this since 2014, and he's been involved multiple cycles as a part of that kind of reverse mentoring. And he'll always, I talk with him fairly often and he'll say, I just learned so much about what's going on in the world. And it's that reminder, he has children and he could talk with them as well, but to talk about with people that are talking about how it impacts our business.
You mentioned children, and one of the hardest things in these times is people who are caregiving, people who are working from home with small children, people who are caring for aging parents or a family member who has special needs. What are you doing to support people? Can you talk a little bit about that challenge for the multi-generational workforce?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lauren. I mean, you can imagine with COVID, it's front and center for everybody now in a different way, perhaps, than it was. First of all, we're an insurance company, right? So we think about our purpose, which is, to help people secure their futures and protect the ones that they love. And we're really about a company that's people helping people. And so it's forefront, if you're thinking about, gosh, I'm worried about getting my kid to college. I'm worried about what happens if I get sick or injured. And with COVID, we've just seen such an increased kind of discussion. And then when we think about recently, we've enhanced our benefits packages. So we've said we need to make sure that we have benefits that work for all. And somebody can see themselves in all the type of benefits that we have. So you have your parental benefits, and we've enhanced what that looks like, additional time off for parents and what that can look like. Gender affirmation, really important when we think about diversity and inclusion within our organization. We have leaves, and we've enhanced the ways that we do our leave policy. So that's caregivers, whether you're caring for children, whether you're caring for a spouse or loved one, whether you're caring for an elder. We have bereavement leave. We've increased the time in which you can do bereavement leave and parental leave. And the great thing that we do that I think is a differentiator for us as we think about kind of this multi-generational workforce is we let the employees decide what loved one means. We don't dictate that.
Culture is really important to a company. And how do you impart culture when we're all working remotely? How do you keep it alive? And it's this thing that it's bigger than all of us, but it feels so weird when you're just sitting in your house.
Yeah, it's such an interesting question because we're watching it happen just like everybody else. Obviously, as head of talent, I sit in HR. So you would think, gosh, HR is on the front end of that, but we're living it as well with everybody else. And so what does that mean? We have found ways, because I think pre-COVID, we were already doing flexible work environment. So we already knew what it meant to be remote, involve people that were working remotely. I think COVID moved everybody along the continuum at the same time, quicker, faster than maybe others were moving in terms of using technology, but we're using Teams, we're using Zoom, we're using Slack. We've called it a bit of this kind of informality, but informality in a virtual way. So in the pre-COVID days, I could walk to our coffee shop, our in-house coffee shop, and meet somebody along the way, have a chat. We have this wonderful kind of open space where you can kind of collaborate, network with colleagues. We're still doing that today. So we're setting up time and we're saying, hey, bring your coffee cup, sit out on your deck. Let's, after hours, let's have a glass of wine. We're doing happy hours. We're doing, and those happy hours, consist of games, activities. We're having meetings where we're saying, hey, the only rule for this meeting is no talk about work. And what we're finding is that we're hearing this, we had a virtual summer intern program where we brought in 70 young people from colleges kind of around the US. And what we heard from them was, gosh, the way to see people interact informally, to see this personal side of people. You were talking about your dog earlier, children walking by, parents walking by, having that informality, let people let their guards down. So we've actually found, let's call it an increase. We just did an employee survey and we heard from our employees, 95%, the highest score we've ever had in terms of pride about the organization. So they're saying it's working. What we're doing virtually, it's connecting, walk and talks. Who's doing that, right? They're putting their headsets on and you're taking a walk and I'm taking a walk and, we're having that normal one-on-one that we might have, but we're just doing it in a different way because we know that we're getting sedentary, right? Because we don't have some of that. So we're finding ways within the organization just to make sure that we're collaborating, we're connecting, we're learning together. It's another big one because I think organizations in times of difficulty learning sometimes slips. That's what the data would tell you. What we're finding is an actual increase because we've come up with a way internally to have let's call it a learning aggregator to tap into learning opportunities that we can do in the moment. So systemic racism pathway, we've driven that out within the organization and it has got tremendous usage within the organization. COVID pathways, resources and support that people need. So we're able to create those and turn those around so quickly. So what we're hearing from our employees is, yes, we're working remotely, but we're connecting almost more than we were before it was happenstance. Now it's intentionality.
Sharyn, power to you for joining us today. I want to thank you. I'm Lauren Young, and this is Reuters.